me up on the phone, and we talked for a little while. And I just said, you know what? I think the way the weather pattern's going, maybe I should go out and buy a copy of your old book, the Superstorm, or. And he said, lots of luck finding it. And, then I forgot all about it because, this job doing the show, booking people, interviewing people, doing all the stuff that needs to be done. I forgot all about it. And then came Monday, and this is no lie, I got the book in the mail. And evidently Art sent it last week before he passed on. And it really hit me really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine it did, man. You to get something like that in the mail along with the news of what happened to him.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell people all the time, Art made the night interesting for people. I remember listening to Art Bell when I was a kid, my dad taking me fishing at night and going out to meet his friend Cobra. And, dude, my life has been, I told you a little bit about what happened today. Like, my life literally is a soap opera. And I don't share everything with the public, but my dad had a friend that his name was Cobra. Cobra was a boxer, and he owned a junkyard when I was a kid. So him and Cobra would always do night fishing, and when I got about 15 years old, he was like, okay, son, we're going to go fishing with Cobra. And I was like, who the hell is Cobra? He's like, that's my boy. And we would go out night fishing with Cobra. I'm talking about like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And Cobra loved Art Bell, so my dad ended up loving listening to Art Bell. And I remember listening to Art Bell. My dad had a Chevy Nova that he would drive around in, brown Chevy Nova, like doo-doo brown, like diarrhea brown. You know what I'm saying? But it was like a tank, man. You could drive that thing anywhere, and it was heavy steel. You could drive it anywhere, and we would be out there sitting listening to Art Bell with the door to the car open. And he's talking about aliens and people calling in, and it's amazing because those little experiences kind of guide you in life in the direction that you're going.
Oh, yeah.
Later on, I found out that my grandmother was in the hoodoo, and I had my experiences when I was 12 years old, and all that stuff kind of fell in place to let me know what was going on. And I'll tell you, Gary, like recently, and people who've listened to me talk before, they know the history of my family with hoodoo. But recently, I've befriended one of the voodoo priestess down here, because there really are no priest or priestess in hoodoo. It's just kind of like practitioners. But she's kind of opened my eyes to what was going on in my family and forced me to go back and study and learn more about it.
Uh-huh.
And it's crazy because I remember my grandmother forcing us to go to church. And I may cough during this interview because I'm coming down with a cold, so I'll mute if I cough. But I remember my grandmother forcing us to go to church. I remember my grandmother going to church, but I know she was a hoodoo practitioner. And then I started, and it was confusing to me over the past 2 years. Like, how do you go to church and you practice hoodoo? And like, it just threw me off. And then I started studying and reading and getting a deeper understanding of it and how it fit into Black culture in America and how it fit into the Masonic Prince Hall Masonry and how it fit into the Baptist churches. And I got a better understanding of it, so I'm not afraid of it like I used to be. You know how ignorance breeds fear?
Well, I can honestly tell you, when I was in junior high school, I watched a movie. I think it was a Hammer movie, and it was, on this island, and, there was a bunch of people were shipwrecked and, they stumbled on, the village helped them out, but they told them don't go out, from the village. And they went out and they saw, voodoo, sacrificing and all this stuff. And then I saw in the movie, they had a doll, and you stuck pins in it, and whatever, to make somebody sick or die. And I had a teacher, Mr. Bender. I hated him with a passion, right? So me and my best friend, Terry Morgan, Terry, we went out and we found a voodoo doll. And we started sticking pins in it. And
I know you didn't.
Oh, yeah, we did. And you know what funny thing is? That was like on a weekend. And we went to school on Monday, and Mr. Bender was in the hospital because he had appendicitis. Now, it's just probably coincidental, but I mean, we were really nailing him in the stomach with those pins. I remember that.
Wow. That's the crazy thing because one of the things that she's taught me, like right now in my house, if I was to send you a snapshot, like I have an altar with candles burning, and those are like St. Michael's, St. Jude, I can't remember, but it's like 7 of them burning. And Jesus of Nazareth, just candles burning. And one of the things that she told me was, she's like, you really have to protect yourself because of the fact that you're in the paranormal. Sorry about that. I'm sitting on the porch.
Oh, that's fine.
She said you really have to protect yourself because you're in the paranormal world. And she's like, intent is everything. And I say that, I get to that point because even as a kid, you guys had an intent behind what you were doing, and the intent is what makes things work. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So we have to be careful. And I learned that a long time ago, but I didn't understand it from the religious, spiritual standpoint. I learned it from the New Orleans kind of street standpoint that, if somebody intended to do something, they were going to do it. And so you always respected another person and their intentions, whether it was good or bad. I've never been a person that kind of considered, I guess the best way I can say it is this, as I matured, good intentions, bad intentions don't really matter to me, but the simple fact that you intend to do something, I respect it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And I treat people based on what they intend to do. But good intentions and bad intentions do influence things in this world. And I think as kids, you guys' intentions, which actually are more pure as a child than they are as an adult, may have done something to that guy,
Well, don't make
you guys.
Come on, Dark Waters. Don't make me feel guilty now. I mean, I felt.
No, I'm not going to make you feel guilty, but I'm going to ask, did you guys ever talk to him again, or?
Actually,
you just did it, let it go?
I tell you, it got so bad with Mr. Bender that, my friend Terry sat there and, ratted me out because it was my idea to Mr. Bender when he came back.
He snitched on you?
He snitched on me, right?
No.
So Mr. Bender drugged me out of the portable, right? Behind the portable. It was in between classes. No one was right there. And he started punching me in the back of the head.
Really?
Oh, really? And, really punched me. Not just once. So it got really bad. I when I was young, like in my 14s and 15s, 16s and stuff, I was bad. So his father worked in a hardware store, and somehow we got a hold of a paint stripper made for aircraft. It takes the paint off aircraft. And he
got him, huh?
He had a car that he really loved. It was an old Plymouth. I can't remember what it was, but he had it customized with a custom paint job. We put about a quart of paint remover all over his car. I feel so bad now. Of course, then he found
it. Dude, you were such a bad kid, bro.
Yeah, well, it removed his paint, and then my friend ratted us out again. He said, because I don't know what Mr. Bender did to my friend, make him rat me out, but then I put it this way: I got beat up by a teacher really good, but if I would have went and complained on him, it would have been a lot worse, especially back in those days.
Yeah. Oh man.
We're talking. That was like in the first part of middle of the '60s. Well, early part of the '60s, actually.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, man, there's you can spank a kid. If he took off his belt and hit you, that's one thing. For him to punch you is a whole nother story. And I'll tell you what, like New Orleans, I can guarantee you, there's no teacher that's going to punch a kid in New Orleans because something bad's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Something's bad going to happen to that guy. It's not going to work out well for him at all down here. But it's crazy. The amazing thing about life, Gary, is we are a sum total of our experiences, and that's why I love talking to people about their experiences, just like you shared that experience. Those things mold and shape us to become who we are. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing, and most people don't respect that. They're just like, oh, this happened to me. And I'm like, when I talk to them, when I start digging in people's life, and I'm like, okay, well, tell me about your parents. Well, my mom and dad were divorced, or, my mom was a Wiccan, or my dad was this, and I'm like, what kind of effect did it have on you? Well, I never thought about it. Well, it affected you. All of those little experiences affect us. Like, the experience that I had today that I share with you, that's probably going to affect me for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, probably the rest of your life.
I won't let it affect me. Yeah, I won't let it affect me negatively where I'll have a negative outcome where I get involved in something that I don't need to be involved with, but it still will affect me. And it's, we are a sum of those experiences. But at the same time, those experiences make us stronger, make us wiser, and make us smarter. So it's life, and it's kind of like it unfolds as it will. And it's a beautiful thing. It's great to be alive. It really, really is.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. I'll tell you one thing, though. After that, I never have done anything knowingly wrong. I mean, I learned my lesson. I mean, and then, after, also my parents found out what I did to the guy's car and all that stuff and being grounded, my for that punishment, I was supposed to get my driver's license at 16. And my dad said, after what you did, you're not going to get your license till you're 18. So, I mean, that was big punishment to a kid.
But did you tell him the guy punched you in the back of the head?
Yeah. But, of course, my dad and my mom said, I should have went to the office and complained. But who are they going to believe, me or the teacher? Back then, they would believe they would probably believe the teacher back then.
But yeah, that's still like, I tell you what, I have a 14-year-old and a 13-year-old son. If my 14-year-old came to me and said, and he'd be like, your father, because he has this thing where he calls me father instead of dad. This is a new thing. He'd be like, yo, father, like my teacher punched me in the back of the head today, man. I'm like, really? And I'll touch the back. If he has a lump on the back of his head, then me and the teacher got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? There's physical evidence of that, of you being accosted. Me and that teacher has a problem. And I'm not going to the principal. I'm going to catch you when you're out at the nightclub. You're gonna have a problem, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to take your belt off and hit my son with the belt, yeah, you know what? Because he talks smack to you. Yeah, all right. You know what I'm saying? Get him right. But to punch him, you got a problem. That's something you do another grown man. Now punch me. Yeah. Let's see who wins this one.
Well,
I can understand where you're coming from.
Well, the only satisfaction I got out of it, the guy was threatening to sue us, my parents for, because I was under 18, to the damage to his car, because of the paint job on his custom paint job. Then my dad just did stand up for me and said, hey, go ahead and sue me. We're going to file criminal charges on you for beating my son up and all this stuff. He dropped it.
Oh, yeah, he did. And that let your dad know he was guilty.
Yeah, well, then also he probably would have not been able to teach anymore, too. So, I mean, so I think the guy realized that. So, hey, your videos you put up and stories you put up on YouTube, let's talk about some of them. Something really scary.
So I'll talk about some of the latest things that I put up. Last night I uploaded the full story from this young lady named Ming. Give you a little bit of background about me and how I met her. This was 2004. I was working as an engineer, and I was doing political consultant work. And she came to me through a young lady named Francine. Francine was an attorney. And she was like, hey, I got this friend of mine, Ming. She went to Stanford University. She's in town. She wants to meet people and hang out and blah, 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 blah. And New Orleans is a city about who you know. It's not so much about what you know or what your degree is or what your profession is. It's really all about who you know. If you know the right people, then you can have whatever success you want to have in the city. So her thing was, let me introduce her to the right people. So Ming and I start hanging out. We go to this place called the Foundation Room. I take her out for drinks. Boom, 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 boom. She's really, really cool. And during the conversation, it turns out that she has family in China that she wants to get to the U.S. And I've always been a person that believes in granting favors to people. But, if I give you a favor, then you owe me a favor, right? So I've always been that way. I've been that way since I was a kid. Like, I do you a favor, and I don't know where I got it from, Gary. I never watched, like, Scarface and any of the gangster movies. It's just in my blood. The favor for a favor is my thing. So I do you a favor, you owe me one. So I'm like, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to hook you up with some people that get your parents in to the country. So she ends up getting her family in.